Oh, leaving Mainz with a little glimpse of sunshine. Wonderful, heading towards Koblenz along one of the really nice parts of the river Rhine with castles and whatsoever. And before we go on the trip, I'll show you what adventures I had to endure yesterday and some nice shots of Mainz downtown. Guess what? I exchanged my bike outfit for this robe. You will see in a moment why. The hardships of a bike trip. Don't you want to join me? What's missing is a beautiful girl, preferably from Portugal, and a bottle of champagne. Well, you can't have it all. So after the jacuzzi, I felt reinvigorated. So I went down to downtown Mainz. I don't know if you remember the church towers from last night, but now I'm standing directly under or in front of one. But the streets are as narrow as they used to be in the Middle Ages, and I can't show it to you other than that. Nice promenade here directly on the Rhine. Tourist ships. Living in Mainz is not so bad. Directly next to the river, through a little forest which they call the Rheinauen, which is wonderful for birds. So, shortly before Bingen, we have got something to tell for you, and that's what it looks like here. Whee! Another cyclist highway just before Bingen. I hope it goes through this time. It ended after 500 meters. My God, Germans! So, we are now in Bingen. And Bingen is situated on the knee of the Rhine. It is here where the Rhine breaks into the Schiefergebirge, the Rhine Massif, and it became dramatically more narrow. So this is the famous and infamous Binger Loch, the Binger Hole, where the ships couldn't pass through. So all the goods had to be unloaded and carried along the shore because it was too dangerous for the ships. And only with massive, and I say massive, detonations on the left and the right, they made this passage passable for the ships, which it is now. In Bingen also lived the famous scholar of the Middle Ages, Hildegard von Bingen. Maybe one of the soulmates, early soulmates, of my current wife, Isabel. She was the first one who did research on the positive effects of brewing beer with hops. So hops actually is a kind of a medicine, and she documented that. And now in the far distance you can see the Binger Mäuseturm there on that island. And while we are approaching it, I tell you the story. Unfortunately, there was no other shot of that famous or infamous Binger Mäuseturm, the Mouse Tower of Bingen. But I'll tell you the story anyway. So in the 10th century, there was the rule of the cold-hearted Bishop Otto from Mainz. And while there was a famine, the people in Bingen were starving. And they went to Mainz to go to the bishop to complain because his corn chambers were full. But the bishop put them in the barn and put fire on them. And while they were screaming, he was laughing. Can you listen to the mice whistle? A year later, there was a great plague of mice. And the bishop didn't know what to do. So he fled on that island with the Binger Mäuseturm, the mouse tower. It probably was not called Mouse Tower then, because he thought he might be safe there. But no, he wasn't. The mice swam through the river and ate the bishop alive. Well, that was a good story, probably not true. Probably it comes from the German word musen, which means something like observe and look at. So that's the origin. But why did they build it? They built it to control the river with the castle. And this was the ancient form of collecting toll, Maut, portage. And while nowadays we do that with a chip, back then they handed over some merchandise. Well, same concept. And let me end this with this wonderful shot. And you can see the Rhine is much more narrow here. And we are in wine country, even though Hildegard said that we should drink more beer. And everywhere they have these great promenades with cafes, beer gardens. I'm pedaling always directly next to the Rhine River, seeing loads of cruise ships. Oh, I wouldn't mind doing that. Isabel, what do you think? Sitting on the deck of a ship, following Hildegard's advice, having a beer and enjoying the landscape. And this is also almost a motorway for bike packers. My God, the whole trip I haven't seen so many as now in the last hour. Every bike packer seems to be here, but only the serious ones have front panniers like me. Quite some traffic on the Rhine River. And one faster ship overtaking a slower one. Interesting. Of all the rocks in the Rhine Valley, this rock is probably the most famous one. It's the Lorelei Rock. The rock was made famous by Clemens Brentano, who invented the woman Lorelei. She was so beautiful that every man fell in love with her. Of course, she was accused of witchcraft. But the local priest said, nah, she can live. But she asked that on her way to the cloister, she could one last time go up to the rock. There she saw her beloved one and fell herself into death. This was way too gloomy for Heinrich Heine, who invented a Nixon with fair hair. She was sitting up there, combing her hair in the evening light and singing a song. That song had so much fascination that all the ship's captains only listened to the song. They lost the orientation and they capsized and died in the currents of the here very narrow and very deep Rhine. So this is absolutely the most famous rock in all of the Rhine River. Bye bye, Lorelei. So just let me tell you a story while we are approaching the next castle. I was just overtaking a couple and I was overtaking her and he was a little ahead of her and enjoying himself and riding a little bit in curves. So she screamed, Werner! And he frightened himself and almost fell off the bike. Then I passed him and said, "All good, Werner, I have enough time." And we smiled at each other. Yeah, the women trying to control the husbands and only frightening them. Werner and his wife. Now she ordered him to be back. And another great promenade in Boppard. Oh, we have reached Koblenz. That's the castle. Maybe I take one of these gondolas tomorrow, go up to the castle. I don't think I want to climb that. And this is the castle of Koblenz, just once again from my balcony window, where I can overlook the bicycle path, the Rhine and the castle. So after the most famous rock, we have the most famous corner of the Rhine River. This is called the German corner, this Deutsche Eck, where the Mosel on my left, hint hint, could this be our next river, and the Rhine on my right, underneath the castle, meet. And this is called the German corner. On the left, the Mosel, on the right, the Rhine. Guarded is the German corner by none less than an emperor. Kaiser Wilhelm personally is looking over the site, which did not always look like this. It was constructed in his honor. They decided to put his statue on this historic site, and they constructed it looking like a boat. And here he is, reigning over the German corner. Now the castle at night, illuminated. The Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm, and next to him the winged genius, the goddess of victory, guarding over the Mosel and the Rhine River.